An Athenian archer draws his bow. Greeks despise the weapon as cowardly, but he loses anyway. The arrow streaks across the plain toward a Persian commander wrapped in gilded scale mail. It misses the man. It kills his horse. That single accident sets in motion the destruction of the largest army Greece has ever faced. This is the story of how the Persian invasion ended, not in one battle, but two, fought on the same day. After Salamis, Xerxes sailed home, but he left his best general behind. Mardonius wintered in Thessaly with the cream of the Persian army, perhaps 100,000 men, and waited for spring. His mission was simple: finish what Xerxes could not, burn Athens a second time, force the Greek cities to submit. The Greeks knew another invasion was coming, and this time they could not hide behind wooden walls. They needed an army in the field. Sparta finally marched. Athens emptied her city again. From across the Peloponnese, hoplites, heavy infantry with bronze armor and long spears, converged on Boeotia for a single decisive confrontation. The Greek allies mustered 38,700 hoplites under the Spartan regent Pausanias. The Athenian contingent, the largest Athens had ever sent, was led by Aristides, called the Just. The nickname was earned. Greek cities routinely asked Aristides to arbitrate disputes because they trusted him to judge fairly, even against his own interests. That trust mattered. Commanding 8,000 citizens far from home required a leader the men would follow without question. Pausanias led the right wing with his Spartans. Aristides held the left with his Athenians. The center was filled by smaller allied contingents. The Greeks crossed Mount Ciceron and descended toward Plataea. What they saw stopped them. Mardonius had built a fortified stockade along the Asopus River, a wooden wall protecting his camp. Beyond it stretched open plain, perfect ground for Persian cavalry. The Greeks halted on the foothills. They had springs for water. They had supply carts coming over the mountain passes behind them. They had broken ground that horses could not charge across. Neither side wanted to attack first. To leave the foothills was to die under cavalry. To assault the stockade was to die against arrows. So both armies waited, staring at each other across the plain, while the Greeks ate their supplies and the Persians watched their food run low. But Mardonius could not afford to wait. His army was huge and hungry. Worse, he had personally promised Xerxes a victory. If he returned to Persia without one, he would not return at all. Time was a Greek weapon. Every day the standoff continued, Persian discipline frayed, and Persian supplies thinned. Mardonius needed to provoke a battle, so he sent his cavalry up into the broken ground to harass the Greeks and force a mistake. The Persian cavalry attack was led by Masistius, one of the most distinguished officers in the empire. He rode a magnificent horse and wore gilded scale mail beneath a scarlet cloak. He was impossible to miss, which was the point. Persian commanders led from the front to be seen. Then came the chance arrow. It struck not the man, but his horse. Masistius fell. Before his guards could reach him, Athenian hoplites surged forward and killed him on the ground. The Persian cavalry, riding away, did not realize their commander was missing. When they returned and saw his body in Greek hands, the entire Persian camp went into mourning. Days passed. Persian cavalry choked off the Greek springs and ambushed the supply carts. Pausanias decided to reposition the army at night, closer to fresh water. The maneuver went badly. In the darkness, units got separated. By dawn, the Greek army was strung out, fragmented, with the Athenians on one flank, the Spartans on another, and a gap between them. Mardonius looked across the plain at sunrise and saw what he believed was a rout. He ordered a full attack. The Persian cavalry charged across the river and up onto the broken ground. And there they found the Spartans, not fleeing, but waiting. The phalanx, interlocking spears, overlapping shields, 8 ranks deep, was already braced. Horses balked at running into a hedge of spear points. The Persian cavalry stalled. Behind them, Persian infantry crashed in without armor heavy enough to match the Greeks. The trap had closed. Mardonius fought from a white horse, conspicuous as Masistius had been. A Spartan named Amnestus killed him with a thrown stone. With their commander dead, the Persian line broke. The Greeks stormed the stockade and slaughtered the army trapped inside. Among the loot, they found Mardonius's personal tent, his couches plated with gold and silver, and the bronze manger from which his white stallion had eaten. That manger became legendary, displayed for centuries as proof of Persian luxury and Greek victory. One Persian commander escaped clean. Artabazus had withdrawn his 40,000 men before the battle even began, supposedly to support Mardonius, in reality to preserve himself. He marched them all the way back to Asia and told Xerxes he had saved the army. Persian defeat was sealed not only by Greek spears, but by Persian betrayal. While the stockade burned, another Greek fleet was crossing the Aegean. King Leotychidas of Sparta had sailed to the island of Delos, then on to Samos, persuaded by Ionian envoys begging the Greeks to liberate the Asian coast. Ionia, the Greek-speaking shore of Asia Minor, had been under Persian rule for 2 generations. The envoys promised revolt if the fleet would only show itself. At Mycale, on the mainland opposite Samos, the Persians had beached their ships and built a stockade around them. Leotychidas landed his hoplites on the same beach. Before the assault, a rumor swept through the ranks. A great victory had already been won in mainland Greece. Leotychidas turned the rumor into a speech. He told his men that Plataea was already theirs, and now they would add Mycale to its glory. The Greeks attacked. The Persian camp burned. The fleet burned with it. The Greeks insisted, then and forever, that Plataea and Mycale were fought on the same day. We cannot prove it, but the belief itself reshaped how Greeks remembered the war. One day, 2 battles, Persia broken on land and at sea simultaneously. The invasion was over, but something larger had begun. Greek ships now stood on Asian beaches. Ionian cities rose against their Persian governors. The war that started with Persian fleets landing at Marathon ended with Greek fleets burning Persian ships on Asian sand. The defensive war became an offensive one. Within a year, Athens would lead the Delian League, an alliance to liberate Ionia and keep Persia out for good. Within 50 years, that league would become an Athenian empire, and a century and a half later, a Macedonian named Alexander would finish what Plataea and Mycale began.